You know, I think for the first time ever since these post-credits scenes became a thing, that the studio has just about as good an idea of what is actually going on as we do. That's not a good sign, man. Morbius is now playing in UK theaters, so it's time to talk openly and freely about spoilers. But since there isn't that much to talk about in the movie itself, today I'm going to be breaking down the post-credit scenes and just how confusing they are. So that's your spoiler warning right there. Remember to let me know your theories and your thoughts about it in the comments below and start the conversation. And of course, if you love movies and TV, this is the place to be, so consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversation on your favorite movies and TV. And before I start my breakdown and explanation of what the post-credit scenes actually are, they are not the ones we've seen in the trailers. They're not the one we see in the teaser trailer. That scene in itself is not in this film. We do have a scene of Michael Keaton meeting Jared Leto, Vulture Adrian Toomes meeting Michael Morbius, but it's not the ones we see in the teaser trailer or the official trailer. The final trailer for the film, which came out recently, we don't get a proper scene between the two of them together, but the little clips that we get to see from Michael Keaton are the ones from the post-credit scene. So without any further ado, let's get on to it. In regards to the first post-credit scene, after the ending of the movie proper, we have Michael Morbius flying around with his brand new army of bats. His girlfriend is now a vampire because, of course, we cut to the crack in the sky closing out as the multiverse was seeping through, and we see Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes suddenly appearing in a jail cell where he looks at the mirror and says something along the lines of, "I hope the food is better here," even though he shouldn't really understand what is actually going on. And so we cut to the news covering how this random dude showed up in the cell. He doesn't exist in this universe, they don't know who he is, and so naturally he hasn't committed any crimes in this universe, so he has to be set free. And right away, your brain, my brain, is hurting, because, say it with me, that is not how the spell works. The spell Doctor Strange casts at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't suddenly take everyone who knew of Spider-Man's identity out of the MCU, and director Daniel Espinosa has confirmed that this Michael Keaton, this Adrian Toomes, is the same from the MCU. So right away, the logic that Sony is using to make this happen, it just doesn't add up. And you start to question just everything. It feels like they're using the concept and the world of multiverse to just make things work in their favor and not following some kind of logic, not following stuff to a point, not telling a story with this concept. It just feels like they're maneuvering it the way they see fit. And with that, they contradict their other movies immensely. And so that first post-credit scene immediately left me scratching my head a bit, but then we go to the second post-credit scene, which is just a logical follow-up to that first one. And in the second post-credit scene, we see Michael Morbius in a car going out to the middle of nowhere. He gets to this deserted place that is near an abandoned house, I believe, and suddenly we start to hear this noise, and from the distance comes in Vulture in his suit. Apparently it's a new suit, but we'll get to it in a little bit. And he starts to have this chat with Michael Morbius, which I'm going to quote. And before I even begin to quote this exchange between Vulture and Morbius, Vulture never takes his helmet off. So this was clearly that ADR session that Michael Keaton talked about on Jimmy Kimmel, I believe, that he was doing back in December or January. I think it was January. But the exchange goes as follows. Vulture says, "Thanks for meeting me, Doc. I've been reading about you." To which Morbius replies, "I'm listening." Vulture says, "I'm not sure how I got here. Has to do with Spider-Man, I think." To which we see a shot of Morbius's face, and he has absolutely no reaction because he doesn't know who Spider-Man is, because this universe has been established as not having a Spider-Man in it. Vulture continues, I'm still figuring this place out, but I think a bunch of guys like us should team up and do some good, to which Morbius replies, intriguing. A ton of questions from this post-credit scene continue, which again, there's no Spider-Man here, Morbius doesn't know who he is, and this Vulture fella is clearly a bad guy. So Michael Morbius, who throughout his film has been established as this good guy, there's no conflict about him. This man is a good guy. He's a hero. There's no anti-heroism to him whatsoever, but he still seems to be going along with this plan. Another thing that director Daniel Espinosa confirmed is that this suit, this Vulture suit that he has, is not the same as he had in the MCU. He doesn't have that suit. He had to build it from scratch. Fine. So there is Chitauri tech in the Sony universe, and if there isn't, fair, how does he get it to work like that? I'm sure there is a way, but you need to explain this stuff. You can't just say, oh yes, he made it work. That doesn't work. There is no logical sense to it. Also, in regards to the Spider-Man thing, we know that a Spider-Man doesn't exist in this universe not only because of Morbius, because in Morbius they took out that reference in the trailers that didn't make the final cut, where we see Morbius walking around and we see a giant poster of a Spider-Man saying murderer. That was all a very disingenuous trick from Sony that I don't know how I feel about that yet. That feels icky. That feels very, very bad for the look of the studio. But nevertheless, regarding Spider-Man, we know there isn't one because of what we see in this film, of what we don't see in this film, but because we get the confirmation in this film that Morbius is set in the same universe as Venom. So we can assume right now that maybe this team is going to assemble to fight Venom, but then we're referencing Spider-Man. And if we want to pretend there's a Spider-Man here, is it the Raimi universe? Because that photo from the trailers was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And if he is, how come Venom doesn't recognize Spider-Man? How come Venom didn't know who Spider-Man was back in the post-credit scene of No Way Home? Back in the post-credit scene of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And if it is the Tobey Maguire universe, there's already a Venom here before Tom Hardy's Venom. There was a Venom back in 2007 with Topher Grace. Does this new Venom not know who that Venom is? And if it's not the Maguire universe and it's the Andrew Garfield universe, again, how does Venom not know who Spider-Man is? These post-credit scenes, these two post-credit scenes, are the biggest takeaway I think any of us can take from Morbius. And in this case, that's not a good thing. It feels like Sony is so committed to creating their own cinematic universe, they have kind of this tunnel vision about it, that they forgot to take the proper steps to build the proper building blocks for a cinematic universe to work, where these post-credit scenes just come across as complete nonsense, and the only sensible conclusion I can take from them is that they're bringing back those old plans for a Sinister Six movie or Sinister Six universe. In this case, they're kind of refining it into something new, but it's not really working. And the way they've established their universe so far with Venom and a single line in Morbius to connect the two of them, these post-credit scenes with Vulture just boggle the mind, and they add nothing. They create more questions than they give answers. It's so confusing, it's so frustrating, and I have no idea or hope right now in regards to this Sony universe of Marvel. But that's my breakdown, that's my explanation of the post-credit scenes of Morbius, how they connect to the Venom movies, to the MCU adjacent kind of. But I want to know what you thought of them. Did you like them? Did you hate them even more? Start the conversation in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my review of Morbius. It's right now up on the channel, and I hope to see you in there and on any other future video and explained video I upload in the future. Thank you to my channel members Bruna and Stuart for making this video possible, and until the next one, love each other and love the movies.